the constructors, destructors, and access modifiers in PHP, and hopefully it was understood. And in this part, we will be diving into a very key concept in object-oriented programming, which is inheritance, right? And just like the name states, I want you to first of all take a, how do I call it? Imagine what you inherit from your parents. What is it that your parents have that you have, right? That is the same thing that happens here, because inheritance is simply a class deriving some methods and properties, or all of the methods and properties from another class, right? So a child class will inherit the public or protected properties and the methods from a parent class, and in addition it can have its own properties and methods. So inheritance in simple word is just and is a relationship. So like father, or like son like father, or like father like son, those kind of things. So you, in inheritance, you a child class, in this case we are talking about two classes or three classes or many classes. A child class is getting all its behavior or some of its behavior from another class, and that class is called the parent class. Now, an inherited class is defined by using the extends keyword in PHP. So if you want to define inheritance in PHP, you use the extends keyword. A clear example is illustrated here on the screen. You have a class called animal, which has properties like name and age, and some methods like set name, set age, get age, and get name, to set the age and to get the age. Then you have another class called animal, or another class called person, which has just one property called country, right? Now, we define an instance of the person class, and you see that we are able to actually get all the properties from the animal class. I am going to switch to my code editor because I think that is going to be well understood. So here in my code editor, I have the animal class with all of these properties. Then in the person class, I have just one property called the country, and I've set the country to um, Cameroon, right? Now notice what happens on this file. I use the include here because I want to reference that class in which I am inheriting from. It is like importing the class. So when I define my person class, I say this class called person is inheriting from a class called animal, right? And this is the animal class that you see here. Now I have within the person class just one property called country. That is okay. Now, but if you see, I have instantiated an object here called P, which is a new person, and I am able to use the set age and set name method. These methods were not initially defined within the person class, but since the person class is inheriting from the animal class, you actually get access to all of those methods. Okay, so I am able to access this, and these other methods too, they get age and they get name. If you actually look into the animal class, these are the methods that I defined, and the methods will work inside this other class because of inheritance, right? Now you see that I am able to access the properties of this class, the country of this class, the person class, and also the methods from the parent class called animal. This is what inheritance is. It is very useful because you don't have to define methods over and over, right? Meaning that if I came to person and there was no inheritance, I'll have to define the get age and the get name and the set age and the set name methods. But with inheritance, that is simplified. This is how inheritance is done in PHP. And if I run this code, um, okay, inheritance. So PHP person.php. You see that I actually get access to the country, the age, and the name, right? After using the methods from an inherited parent. So this is how inheritance is used in PHP. The next thing we will talk about is method overriding. Now, consider a case where I inherited from a class and I want to change the way some things are, right? Take for example, I have a class called animal, the same class, and it extends the person class also extends the animal class the same as before. But in this case, I have a constructor. The animal class has a constructor with two arguments, but when I define my parent class or my person class that is inheriting from the animal class, I have passed in three arguments in the constructor, right? You see that the constructor of the parent class is now different from the constructor of the child class. That is called method overriding. Okay, so I am going to still go to my editor. Um, I'm going to comment this out so that I don't get a clash. Comment this out. So this should sound like something to you when you want to run these files. You want to test them. Make sure you comment, or for example, when you come to um, things like overriding, make sure you comment the inheritance because they are classes with the same names in my class. So let's enter the overriding and uncomment what is already there. It is practically the same thing, just the constructor that has added. Okay, so within my overriding, because we are talking about method overriding simply uh, in simple terms is you inheriting from a parent class but you don't want to use the exact method, right? You want to use the method name but don't want to use the exact implementation of it. So you want to set your own implementation. That is called overriding. So in this case, I have an animal class that has a constructor with two arguments, name and age, and a setter for the name, a setter for the age, and the same thing. And I come to my person class, which inherits from the animal class, and there is something that I've declared here. I have just declared another constructor with three arguments, right? These three arguments are not the same as the two arguments in the animal class. So there, in general, there is supposed to be an error. But because of the power of method overriding, there is no error in this, right? So if I come back here and I create my new instance of the person class and I try accessing the properties that I just defined, you see that they will be printed the same. But I want you to take note, I am not using the get name, the get age here. Why is that? Because of this constructor. This constructor actually helps me to directly access all of this because I said this does name is equal to the name. Okay, so if I run this clear, let me enter the overriding and run php person.php, you see that we get the same thing, right? But note here there is method overriding. Now imagine that I wanted to define maybe another method here called function set say age, and I instead want to set the age as a string. So I'll first of all pass in the age, and I'll say this age is equal to, let's say, a given age, and I pass in the age, right? Now I just want to show you something. So if I come back here and I set the age, uh, p z age to 25 or 24, for example. Now let's try accessing this and see what happens. Uh, okay, so run the same method. You see something here that now the age is printed differently. I have that the age 24 because I have redefined the set age method that concatenates the string and the age. Alright, that is called method overriding because this set age method exists within the animal class. Let me show you that. If I come to the animal class, there is a method called set age, right? But inside the person class, even though I'm inheriting from the animal class, I have decided to change my own implementation of the set age method. That is called method overriding. Right. Just a recap, inheritance in general is you being able to access, or is a class ability to access the method and properties from another class by extending it. Method overriding is being able to access these methods and properties and being able to change the way they are or change the way they behave, right? That is the simple explanation of inheritance and method overriding. I hope that was clear enough. If you have questions, feel free to drop it, and see you in the next tutorial.